I first started trying natural options for anxiety, I thought herbs straight up did not work. I'd sip some tea, I'd pop a capsule, I'd even try a tincture, and I'd sit there thinking, cool, cool, cool. Why do I still feel like I want to crawl out of my skin? If that's you, you're not alone in thinking that the natural stuff just doesn't work. Herbs can be such powerful tools for anxiety, but only when you're matched with the right herb, prepared in the right way, and taking the right dose. In today's video, I'm going to break down the 3 keys to making herbs effective and sharing the herbs that I personally love and have used over the years for my own anxiety and in practice with my clients. Let's just get right into it today. I've got a delicious cup of spring tea over ice today because it's a little warm right now. This is by Mind Body Herbals, and it has some of the herbs that we're going to talk about today, like lemon balm and chamomile, and it's just chef's kiss delicious. So first things first, let's just be honest, most people who say that herbs don't work were taking the wrong herb, they were taking the wrong dose, or they weren't making it the right way. You might have heard about an herb, a supplement from a friend, you might have seen it on TikTok, you heard that it was really good for anxiety, and you thought, I have anxiety, I should take that. The problem with that is that herbs aren't these magic potions. They're really powerful tools, but you have to match them to your nervous system in the same way that you have to match a pharmaceutical to your medical condition. In the same way that not every SSRI is going to work for every person that has anxiety, you kind of have to figure out the perfect one that works with your own body chemistry. Herbs are very similar in that sense. That's why today I'm breaking down the 3 keys that make herbs and botanicals actually effective so you can really start to feel the difference from them. And along the way, I'll share some of my personal favorites that I've used over the years for my own anxiety and in practice with my clients. Knowing how to use herbs and knowing which herb works best for you is so crucial in herbs and botanicals finally making a difference on your anxiety. So let's go ahead and get started with key number 1. Key number 1 is choosing the right herb. So before I start pulling some of these herbs out of the cabinet, there is something that you should know about herbs. In herbal medicine, we think about herbs not just what they help in the body, so not just helping for anxiety, but what their actions are. What are they actually doing in the body? So for anxiety and nervous system support, these are the 2 actions I really want you to know. Nervines and adaptogens. Nervines are herbs that directly tone, soothe, and nourish the nervous system. Think of these as like a daily hug for your frazzled nervous system. Some examples of nervines I'm going to show you today are chamomile, lavender, and lemon balm. Adaptogens are a little bit different because they are acting on the nervous system to make you more resilient to stress over time. So in the last video, we talked about that window of tolerance and becoming more resilient, expanding your window of tolerance so that you can handle more stressors as they come up and get out of fight or flight mode. Adaptogens are an amazing herb to have in your arsenal when you're trying to expand that window. They don't just calm you down in the moment, they are building that long-term resilience that's going to lower your overall anxiety long-term. Some examples of this are holy basil, my favorite herb of all time, ashwagandha, and rhodiola. So you can think of nervines as more of that in-the-moment anxiety support, and adaptogens your long-term root cause-oriented support. I really like having both on hand because sometimes when you're doing root cause medicine, it can take a long time to really see a change in your anxiety. Adaptogens really need to be taken for 12 weeks, 3 months to start to see that effect. So that's still 3 months where you have anxiety. So that's why I like to bring in those more in-the-moment, day-to-day herbs that are really supportive and nourishing to keep you calm while you're working on that root cause. So as I go through each herb, I'll point out which ones are nervines and which ones are adaptogens. But let's go ahead and dive into the first herb. This is lemon balm. These are dried herbs of the fresh plant. I'll put a picture up of what the plant looks like. Lemon balm is a classic nervine, meaning it's really going to soothe and nourish the nerves in the nervous system. Every anxiety herb has a different flavor of anxiety. Some people, when they're anxious, have a lot of chest tightness, their heart feels racing, they feel like they might have a heart attack. But for other people, they have a lot of anxiety in their gut. They have more of the IBS symptoms. So every flavor of anxiety is a little bit unique, and that's what I'm going to point out with each herb, how they have their own unique way that they help with anxiety. Lemon balm's a really great herb if you tend to have that tight, restless feeling with anxiety, but you also get a little sad and down sometimes. I had a mentor once refer to lemon balm as bringing joy to the heart, and I just really love that description. I think it's so accurate. I always feel this just uplifting sense of calm, but not too uplifting that you're in anxiety mode, but just taking the edge off while putting you in a better mood. It's slightly sweet, so it's really nice to drink in a tea. So this is a great herb to start with if you feel wound up, but also a little bit low. Next up, of course, we have holy basil, my favorite herb ever. Holy basil, or Tulsi, you might have heard it called, is an adaptogen. So this is your long-term support. I reach for this anytime that I am feeling stagnant, burnt out, just kind of emotionally drained, and that feeling of burnout and feeling stuck is making me feel very anxious. It's slightly sweet with a little bit of a peppery taste to it. It tastes really great in tea. Again, I'll put a picture of the fresh herb up here. This is the dried version and what you would use in a tea. If your anxiety feels very heavy, you feel emotionally stuck, stagnant, kind of burnt out, and that's making you feel anxious, holy basil is going to help you build back up that resiliency over time. Anytime that I'm feeling anxious and I feel like I'm just going through the motions of life and pushing through, that's when I know I want to reach for holy basil. Flavor is slightly sweet with this peppery kick to it. It makes a really beautiful daily tea. You could also take it as a tincture for long-term daily support. So holy basil, make it your go-to if you're feeling emotionally exhausted, drained, but still kind of feeling that wired, anxious energy underneath. Next up, we have the beautiful chamomile, this gorgeous flower. Put a picture up, I'm sure you've seen it. You have probably heard of chamomile as your classic bedtime tea, but she is so much more than that. Chamomile is a nervine. It's really powerful for anxiety that shows up in the gut. So if you deal with anxiety-related nausea, bloating, that tense, knotted stomach feeling, chamomile is an amazing herb to support the gut-brain axis. It has a gentle, slightly sweet, slightly floral taste to it. So it's a great foundational herb to support both your mind and the gut. If you want to dig deeper in the relationship between anxiety and gut issues, I have an entire video on it. I'll link it here. Next up, we have one of the most famous calming anxiety herbs, lavender. It's got a gorgeous purple color to it. I feel like this is the herb that most people think of when they think of an anxiety herb. Lavender is another nervine, but it's a little bit different from lemon balm and chamomile. Lemon balm lifts sadness and calms anxiety. Chamomile for the gut and anxiety. Lavender is more for that physical tension anxiety. So tight shoulders, clenched jaw, that really shallow breathing, can't take a deep breath in through your diaphragm. If that's part of your anxiety picture, lavender can be a really great addition. It's very floral, so not everyone loves it in a tea, and to really help with anxiety, you would need a bigger dose than probably what you would like in a tea form if you're solely relying on lavender to support your anxiety. There are lavender capsules that you can take. Some people say it works wonders for them, probably because they have that tension form of anxiety. You do have to be aware of the lavender burps. So some people report that when they burp, it smells and tastes like lavender. There are worse things that it could smell like, but just letting you know. Generally, when I'm using lavender, I like to have it in a tea with a lot of other herbs and make sure it's well balanced, so I don't get that soapy floral taste. Lavender is a very powerful anxiety herb. And last up, we have the absolute beautiful rose. Rose isn't just the flower you give on Valentine's Day. It's really powerful for emotional healing. Your anxiety comes from a lot of grief, a lot of loneliness, heartbreak, relationship stress. Rose can be deeply supportive. It's what we call a heart-opening herb. It softens those feelings of emotional overwhelm without, sedating you or putting you to sleep. Rose is a nervine that's very calming to the nervous system. I want you to remember rose when you are going through a lot of emotional turmoil. Your emotions feel very sharp inside. The anxiety is accompanied by a lot of sadness and grief. Lemon balm was kind of feeling low and feeling anxious, kind of like that up and down anxiety depression picture. Rose is that deep grief. You just went through a breakup, maybe someone you loved just passed away, kind of big emotional times. Rose is something that you would want to turn to. Now, hopefully you have an idea of how herbs can get so specific, and it's really important to match your specific flavor of anxiety with the herb. Maybe you've even noticed, oh yeah, I tried that one, but that's actually not how my anxiety presents, and that's probably why it didn't work for me. I know for me, I started with lavender. I feel like everybody knows of lavender as the anxiety herb, so that's where I started. I was like using the essential oil on my wrist and hoping that was going to take away my anxiety. I was drinking lavender teas. It just wasn't really doing anything. But for me, the perfect combination is lemon balm and holy basil. Those two really match my picture of anxiety so well. I have a tendency of being anxious, but can also slip into a little bit of depression at times. And I definitely have a tendency of burning myself out. And holy basil has just always helped me come out of that again. That doesn't mean I don't use the other herbs, but those are kind of my home-based flavor of how my anxiety likes to present. But then, in big times of grief, I'll reach for rose. If I am feeling really tense, then I'll reach for the lavender. But that wasn't going to help how my anxiety showed up day to day, because that's not the way that my anxiety likes to come out. Now that you've kind of got an idea of some herbs to choose from, let's talk about the right way to prepare them, because the way that you use herbs matters just as much as choosing the right herb. There are so many different ways to incorporate herbs. You can use it in your cooking. You can make infused oils and vinegars, make glycerins and syrups. But I'm going to talk about the most popular ways that people use herbs. They're going to be teas, tinctures, and capsules. First up is tea. Tea is my favorite way to use herbs. So that's what we're going to start with. Teas are just such a great way to incorporate daily use of herbs. And especially if you're a beverage girly like me, I am always drinking something. So I'm a lot more likely to remember to take my herbs if it's in a fun beverage. Especially for the nervous system, consistency is really the most important part. While I'm going through these different preparation methods, I want you to think about yourself and be honest about what are you most likely to do. Not a beverage person, tea might not be the right preparation because you're less likely to be consistent with it. Teas work beautifully for baseline anxiety. You can combine a lot of the different herbs that I talked about and make a flavor profile that tastes really good to you. And you're nourishing that frazzled nervous system over time during your day, especially during your work day. I find this really nice to get kind of that constant stream of calming botanicals while maybe you're feeling a little bit more anxious, a little bit more stressed at work. Plus, the ritual of making tea is so grounding. I feel like just that act of preparing a cup of tea gives your body and your mind this signal that it's okay to relax and calm down a bit. The key to making tea effective is you want to choose loose leaf herbs. So this is my stock of my water blend, which has lemon balm, chamomile, holy basil in it, and rose. So this is a really great anxiety blend. You can see how beautiful and intact all the herbs are. When you are using a tea bag from a grocery store, while they are very convenient, the herbs that you're getting in that tea bag are all kind of ground up. So it's a lot harder to extract the compounds you're looking for from those herbs because it's just kind of the grounds. If you've tried loose leaf tea, you know the difference in flavor, how rich the taste is incomparable to a tea bag. It's really hard to go back after you've tried loose leaf tea. Another mistake that I see with tea is that you're not steeping the tea long enough. Loose leaf herbs, to make a medicinal cup of tea, you want to be infusing those herbs for about 8 to 10 minutes, if not longer. All the herbs we talked about today can be infused with hot water or regular infusion. If you're using a really tough part of the root of the plant, you actually want to make that through a method called decoction, where you're kind of boiling it over the stove, and that's going to extract the medicinal properties of the herb. That's why I say preparation is really important. The other trick when you're steeping your tea is that when you're letting the herbs infuse, cover your cup of tea with a plate or just anything that'll cover that mug. That'll trap all of those aromatic essential oils that not only are really good for you, but they're going to make your cup of tea taste a lot better. Next up, we have tinctures. Tinctures are very concentrated liquid extracts. Basically, the way that a tincture is made is that the dried herb is placed in alcohol and water, and over 4 to 6 weeks, it infuses in that liquid, and then the herb is strained out, and you're left with just the medicinal compounds in the liquid. You can also make an alcohol-free version, which is called a glycerite, where you're extracting in glycerin, or an elixir, which is glycerin and honey. Those just don't have as long of a shelf life, and sometimes don't extract as well the medicinal compounds of the herb. Tinctures with an alcohol extraction are kind of the gold standard. Tinctures work a lot faster than teas because you're taking them by mouth and then absorbed into the gut. You're able to pack in a much higher dose because you're taking 1 dropper full instead of having to drink, 6 cups of tea to get the same dose. I use tinctures a lot for more acute anxiety. So if I'm feeling really panicked, extra stressed that day, or if I know I'm about to have a really overwhelming day that could trigger me in some way, tinctures are a nice way to kind of boost my nervous system to be able to better handle it. They're great if you're going on a flight and you might have some flight anxiety. You have to give a big presentation you're nervous about before you have a tough conversation. That's when a tincture can be really beneficial. Do single herb tinctures. So I have lemon balm and holy basil right here. Or something I do a lot is formulate a custom tincture that matches your profile of anxiety. You can make a tincture that combines a couple herbs. If I was really taking both of these herbs a lot, I could make a tincture that had both of it in it. Tinctures are also great because they're really portable. I always just kind of have them around wherever I could need them. So I'll throw some in my purse, I have them at my work desk, I have them in my car. You never know when anxiety is about to happen, so it's nice to kind of have them around. And lastly, we have capsules. Capsules are the most convenient and probably the most common. You don't need to brew anything. Some people don't like the taste of alcohol in the tinctures. Some people don't like tea. Really easy to just pop it and go. The issue with capsules is that they are not all created equal. Products, some brands will use lower quality herbal powders instead of extracts. A lot of the research that's been done on herbs has been done on extracts. Think about when you take a capsule, it has to go through your entire GI system to be absorbed. It's really hard to know if all of that herb is actually being absorbed because it has to go all the way through. Teas and tinctures are more liquid, so it's easier to absorb. They can definitely be helpful though, especially if you're working on a specific medical condition and you need to take a much higher dose of the herb. And a lot of people just find that they're the most consistent with capsules. Personally, I don't like taking pills that much, so for me, I'm a lot more consistent with taking tinctures and teas, and that's just on knowing yourself. You might be like, Dr. Mel, there's no way I'm gonna drink 3 cups of tea a day, where for me, that's really easy to do. You might really hate the taste of tinctures. For me, I can just put it in like a little shot glass with some water and knock it back quick, and I don't really mind it. But some people, they're much more likely to be consistent with a capsule. Just know yourself. If I were looking for more immediate anxiety relief, I would definitely go for the tincture or even a tea before a capsule, because the capsule can just take a lot longer to really see an effect. So let's just do a quick recap. Tea, nourishing, everyday nervous system support, and really customized to your own flavor profile and the type of anxiety that you have. Tinctures, much more fast acting, in the moment support, concentrated higher dose. Capsules are convenient for maintenance. They can also do a higher dose, however, might not be the most absorbable. You've used herbs before, but maybe you've only used capsules. It might be time to try tinctures or teas, or vice versa, and see if there's a different form that works better for your body. Now that you know how to use herbs, let's talk about another critical piece, which is how much to take. Let's get into dosing and why underdosing is actually one of the most common reasons I see for why herbs don't work for people. Quick important disclaimer before we get into dosing. This video is for educational purposes. This isn't medical advice. You should always talk to your doctor before starting a new herb, a new supplement. I don't know your medical history, your medical conditions, if you're pregnant, on different medications. There's so many different things that go into interactions with herbs. So that's very important. Herbs are natural, but they are very powerful. They can cause side effects, just like most medications. And while I tend to see underdosing more of a concern, overdosing is still a very big concern. And I especially see that more with capsules. So this isn't about throwing whatever herb at your system, taking as much of it as you can in a day. This is about being really intentional and safe with this powerful medicine. Got the disclaimer out of the way, we know how important it is to use herbs safely, but this is why dosing matters so much. Most people who say this herb didn't work for me, it was either not a good match for them, they weren't preparing it the right way, or they weren't taking enough of the herb. Herbs aren't like a take it once and suddenly you're cured type of medicine. They really need that consistent use to build up in your system to see the change that you want to see. A few drops of a tincture, not enough. A quick dunk of your tea bag for 30 seconds, not enough to pull out those calming compounds. Herbal medicine is gentle, yes. You still need to be taking a therapeutic dose of the herb to actually shift the nervous system. General ballpark guidance on some of these preparations looks like this. Dropperfuls a dose can be anywhere between 1 to 3 dropperfuls. Each dropperful, this is one full dropper, it won't go all the way to the top, that's okay, is about 30 drops. 30 to 60 drops, 30 to 90 drops is one dose, and usually the frequency of that would be 2 to 3 times a day. That would be a therapeutic dose. Sometimes for acute conditions, it could be even more. Teas are going to be 1 tablespoon of loose leaf herb. That's 1 tablespoon per cup, about 8 to 10 ounces. Again, steep it covered in your mug for 8 to 10 minutes. Even longer if you've got roots or some of those tougher leaves. Capsules are really going to depend on the herb itself. I would rely on your doctor's recommendation, the recommendation that you see on the back of the bottle, which is often a more conservative recommendation in dosing, but it can be really easy to overdo capsules, especially if you're taking a lot of different supplements. You might notice that the herb is in multiple things and you want to make sure that you're not overdoing it. That's why working with a licensed naturopathic doctor who's trained in botanical medicine can really make such a difference. I'm able to tailor that dose to you, your constitution, your medical conditions, and your anxiety nervous system pattern. Herbs aren't this one size fits all solution. Sometimes we need to pull different herbs in. They're going to work best when you give them that same type of care and respect that you'd give to any type of medication. Let's go over some of my favorite herbs, but most importantly, how I actually use them in my real life. Passion flower is one of my favorite herbs right now. It is really good if you have more of that wired anxiety, if you tend to overthink. Powerful nervine, it stops those racing thoughts, it soothes tension in the body, and supports much deeper, restful sleep without giving you that knocked out feeling. This is a glycerin. It's my favorite way to take passion flower because it's sweet. It tastes really good. Glycerins are alcohol free. They're extracted in glycerin, so that's really nice at night. I don't really want to taste that alcohol right before bed. And normally what I do is I just add a glug of it to a mug of tea or even just some water and mix it up before bed. So just like that, it's about a tablespoon. You can have it in, this is iced water, but you could also do it in hot water to make a cozy little beverage. I'll usually sip on that while I'm unwinding and reading in bed. I've already gushed about lemon balm and holy basil, but I wanted to tell you the way that I use them. So anytime I'm feeling that mental exhaustion, I'm feeling a little bit down, I love to make a really big batch of water tea by Mind Body Herbals. I'll make a French press that makes about 3 to 4 cups. It's gonna be a nice therapeutic dose, and I'll sip on it throughout the day. The water blend includes a lot of the herbs we talked about: holy basil, chamomile, lemon balm, and rose. So it kind of has that uplifting picture if you're feeling a little bit sad, but also anxious. This is what I'll sip on during the workday if I'm feeling that way. If I'm feeling more anxious, restless, tense energy, that's when I'll reach for earth. Or if I'm feeling really burnt out, this has a bit of a higher dose of holy basil in it, and it includes lemon balm and lavender. So again, lavender was good for that tension. Earth is a very grounding blend to sip on during your workday. I don't think people know about using a French press to brew tea. I have one that's just dedicated to brewing tea. Don't put coffee in it because it will taste like coffee, but a French press will give you about 3 to 4 cups of tea. And I have a little tea warmer, so I just will sip on it throughout the day. So there you have it. We've talked about a lot of herbs today. My personal picks that make a really big difference with anxiety. I would love to know what has been your favorite herb for anxiety. Let me know down below. I always find everybody has a favorite in the same way that I'm obsessed with holy basil. If you're feeling inspired to use herbs more intentionally, I've got 2 resources for you. First, you can grab the absolutely free Mind Body Toolkit for anxiety. It's packed with different tools, strategies, herb suggestions for making your nervous system stronger and more resilient. And second, if you're interested in using tea as part of your herbal arsenal, I'll link some of the Mind Body Herbals ones we talked about below. Remember, healing isn't about throwing a million different things at yourself. It's really being intentional and finding what works for you and your body. Choosing a few powerful tools, using them consistently, and letting your nervous system rebuild and relearn what safety really feels like. Thanks for talking herbs with me and spending time with me today. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, I'm rooting for you every step of the way.